Hey, what's up guys, AARava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 117 today for the penultimate episode of not only the season, but the entire series here at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in Season 7. And my oh my, do we have a cracking last two races coming up at Jeddah and Yas Marina for Abu Dhabi, following a incredible race at the Brazilian Grand Prix, the sprint and the full one, of course, because in the sprint race, well, it was absolute scenes from Lewis Hamilton making a double overtake, piercing through the two Vettel Rennsport cars. We followed him through like a horse to our carriage and made it a 1-2 in that sprint. We then decided to take a grid penalty for an internal combustion engine to make sure we have a fresh engine for today's race and the next one at Abu Dhabi. And with the pace our car showed on the Saturday in the sprint, it didn't matter that we're at the back. We made it through for a last lap overtake to get a podium, to make it a double podium for AAR, and getting Mick Schumacher on the line for third place. Hamilton dominated that one though, and it means going into the final two races of the season, well, we lead the way, Leclerc second, Hamilton is now up to third, and he is level on points with Lando Norris and Mick Schumacher. Absolutely incredible. Piastri fell away a little bit in that episode. Drugovich as well with the DNF that he faced with a crash with George Russell. So really, you've got to say it's those five guys, including ourselves, in the championship fight now for the last two episodes. There is a bit of a gap from Leclerc to the three on level points, Hamilton, Norris, Schumacher. So the closest challenger really is Leclerc. So focus will be on him, ironically. After all this time, we've been focusing on Lando Norris and Mick Schumacher at times, and now all of a sudden, Leclerc has ended up being the best of the rest, nearest one to us. But, we know that no matter how many times he's qualified well, there's been a case of that Golf Porsche Williams car, for whatever reason, just doesn't have the same sort of pace in the race. Kind of, ironically similar to what Leclerc faces in real life in Ferrari. They've got a good race car over one lap on Saturday. Sunday, it doesn't seem as strong, but we need to keep our wits about us. Jeddah, very fast flowing circuit, chaos can come about, so we're gonna have to make sure we do the job and not get complacent with the gap we've got in the championship. Q1, bit of traffic to contend with. My old pal and old teammate Max Verstappen blocking us a little bit in the Ferrari, but we do get a second lap in there to make sure we get through to the next session. Hamilton showing his pace up there, but surprise, surprise, Leclerc up there in P1. And for us, we needed that second lap. I was shocked down in P15. Don't know where the pace of this entire field's come from, so we've got a bit of work to do to dig in deep and find a bit more pace around Saudi Arabia in the next two sessions to get through into Q3 and then qualify well in the top 10 shootout. But, Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris all up there. The two Vettel Rennsport cars maybe need to find a little bit more speed in the next two sessions along with myself, but hopefully, that's going to be the case for me at least as we kind of dial into this circuit. It's not exactly like Monaco, but I feel like in a very Monaco way, for me at least, as we do the laps, I get quicker and quicker with the circuit, getting more comfortable with how close we can get to the walls, and we do thankfully make it through into Q3, but only just. So, I don't know, are we on the back foot a little bit? We really enjoyed a lot of great pace around Sao Paulo, but maybe here at Jeddah, this My Team car is not so amazing, and the two Haas cars are looking so quick with Piastri top, Hülkenberg there, Drugovich has woken up into P2, and Schumacher as well, as Norris is through as the lone Audi and the lone Mercedes of Russell, along with the Andretti Honda of Logan Sargent, mixing it up, the rookie American in the top 10 shootout. But I'm hoping that we, myself and Hamilton, can find a bit more pace than we did in that second session, because otherwise we're going to have to settle for P10 on the grid, but I'm hoping for better. And the cars generally felt really, really good, so I don't really know any reason why the pace is not kind of turning out in terms of the actual lap time, which is kind of the worst thing ever, really, when the car feels so comfy and just isn't producing the lap time you want. Let's see what we can do here now, where it really matters. The top 10 shootout as we run to the line. It's going to be not as quick as Lando Norris, but up there in second place, ahead of Hülkenberg, Russell and Leclerc's first lap times. But as we go through to the end of the session, a couple of others do improve, including Leclerc and Drugovich. And Drugovich, the man who DNF'd from his home race last time out, is on pole position. Surprise, surprise, though, Leclerc up there on the front row in the Golf Porsche Williams. The Repsol Haas car's looking decent with Piastri on the same row as Hamilton. We're on the same row as our long-standing rival of this season, Lando Norris, in the Audi. Mick Schumacher will be frustrated at his P8, looking at where his teammate is and where the car really can be. So he's not unlocked that potential, as he is the one in the championship fight, not Felipe Drugovich. But, if someone, like Drugovich or Piastri is in the fight for the win, that makes things a bit more interesting in a way for the rest of us in the title fight, because there's less points then on offer in those lower positions to really make a huge swing and difference into the last round. But, Hamilton showing again that he's just really come into his own in the last, second half of the season, consistently out-qualifying us and looking better in the car. But, both of us very close together, so hopefully we just have a decent amount of race pace to go and make some overtakes. But we've got that cushion to work with as well, so let's go to the grid and just try and do the best job we can, hopefully keep it clean and set up a pretty decent finale.
We're here today on the shores of the Red Sea in the Lower Hejaz Mountains to visit one of the newest circuits on the Formula One calendar. We're in Jeddah, home to what we all hope is going to be a thrilling Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah Street Circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Felipe Drugovich lines up on pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Oscar Piastri, Norris, the owner driver, and Mick Schumacher. Sargent, Hamilton, they've taken a grid penalty. Russell and Yuki Tsunoda. Sainz, Liam Lawson, Fernando Alonso and Magnussen. Ricciardo, Verstappen, Nico Hülkenberg. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Sergio Perez. Albon, Schwartzman, Gasly and Théo Pourchaire. And now it's time to head down to the track. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. Ant, it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
So in terms of the strategy today, looks like, well, pretty much all of us are starting on the medium combat attire. The strategy does suggest maybe mediums to hards, but I've actually saved a fresh set of soft tyres from qualifying for the very reason of being on the softs at the end. We know the mediums can actually go very long around Jeddah, not like, very long like, we tried in Brazil and other races where they fall away. We do know that they just go so long because this circuit, very brand new, not very abrasive. So I think we're going to take the medium tyre as long as we kind of dare, kind of be in clean air, which is going to be crucial when others maybe pit before us and go on to hards, and then use the soft tyres to our advantage at the end of this race. We've done this before. We did it in the season where this team was known as Lotus AAR, and it worked a treat just being in clean air on mediums and then having the quicker tyre at the end. So hopefully we can do that again. We've been elevated to P5 on the grid because Hamilton actually has a small grid penalty, so he's inside the top 10, but he's behind us. So now we're P5 and we have a good sight on our nearest rival Leclerc on the front row as we go to 5 red lights to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. 2 rounds to go, and it's a good start for us, and more so for Lando Norris, who boxes us in a little bit with the wall and Piastri, but we're still going to try and make the overtake. Piastri makes contact with Leclerc. Drugovich gets a clean getaway for P1, and now the Williams is inside right ahead of us, but we can't make a move with these two side by side. Little bit of a love tap there on the rear end for Leclerc as he goes on the inside. What a move from Charles Leclerc for P2 there. Piastri tried his hardest to steal second place away from him, but he was not having any of it. But Drugovich already with a commanding lead then, much like we've seen in the past some races. When you're fighting so much, you just get a clean break as we go sailing round the outside of the Repsol Haas. A really nice move at the banked left-hander as we get up into P3, and you can feel that there is some determination in the air between Leclerc and myself to try and have that advantage going into the final race at Abu Dhabi. Leclerc fends off Piastri, we overtake Piastri, and now it's just us two next to each other on the circuit if we can pull away from this train behind me, which is pretty damn long from me down to Piastri. Norris tail-ended by Hamilton, I think that is. He tries to get past Yuki Tsunoda as we close up on Leclerc, but setting up the move for turn 1 on lap 2, unlike Logan Sargent, who just goes for it down the inside of Mick Schumacher, who's up into P6, doing well to recover from the qualifying on Saturday. As we now line up a move on Leclerc, he goes defensive, doesn't give us any space to go on the left-hand side. We're going to have to go to the outside of turn 1. It will turn to the inside for the next corner, a little bit fine, no contact made with Leclerc, but he has the much better racing line out that corner to get the power down earlier. But we're going to try and send it nonetheless on the outside, and virtual safety car deployed just as we were making the overtake, and I'm pretty sure Leclerc overtook us there under the virtual safety car. I'm pretty sure I was ahead by a whisker, by a nose, and yet he's overtaken us. So FIA, I don't know what's going on there, but that's a bit funny. But this is why the virtual safety car came out, because of debris, it must be, on the exit of turn 1, with Fernando Alonso with no front wing on the Andretti Honda being broken by the Red Bull Ford there, in contrast to his more rookie teammate, junior teammate Logan Sargent, doing very well in P7 for his American team. As we now get ready for the green flags after the virtual safety car period, and we're literally right up the gearbox of Leclerc, because technically our delta time would bring us ahead of Leclerc, but we can't overtake him under yellow, so we're jockeying for position. We're now side by side immediately. Such an awkward place to go green through the apex of the final corner. And again, Leclerc just gets that better acceleration the Williams has had all season, but we're right up the gearbox, pulling out for the move. Piastri, though, lurking in the distance in the background. He turns into us. Bit of contact made. Piastri hits our side pod. We make contact with Leclerc in through turn 1. And again, on the exit, a bit of contact as we switch from right to left to get it down the inside. Bit of a warning for that collision as we lost the rear end. Wasn't kind of on purpose, more just the fact that we didn't have the traction out that right-hander, and Leclerc aided us a little bit to keep us straight and narrow. But Leclerc remains in second place. But looking at a replay, we haven't got a message yet from our engineer, but I'm pretty sure there might be a chance we have slight floor damage from Piastri, because Norris kind of put Piastri in an awkward position to make that dive, and he did graze our floor on the right-hand side. So there may be a tiny bit of floor damage. I don't know. I guess we're going to have to find out as we go on through this race, as Lewis Hamilton makes a similar move to me on the Andretti that I made on the Haas earlier, on the outside of the banking, to get ahead of Logan Sargent and make up those crucial positions to try and limit the damage and do better later on in this race. So we cut back to our POV. Lap 3, we've only had 3 laps, and there's been so much bloody action already as we try and play it cautious and play the DRS game with Leclerc. No point trying to make a dive bomb down the inside on that quick left-hander, knowing that we're going to have DRS on this straight. We're saving ERS as well, not deploying on purpose, because we know Leclerc will come back at us. He defends on the inside, and again, that Williams has been so great out of this final bend on the inside line, and here deploying ERS all the way down. But Leclerc's got us in a straight line in this drag race. The Williams is winning because he has DRS, and now it's 3 wide because Norris comes into the fray. We get boxed in by the Audi with the Williams. Leclerc almost brake checked us into turn 1 as he's focused more on the Audi now rather than me, and we actually lose a position rather than gain one. Can we follow Norris through, though, as he's going to make that move on the inside? We have a look. My God, that could have been an absolute calamity if we committed to that. I really thought I could follow Lando Norris through there. Just wasn't meant to be. So now all of a sudden the Audi is in second place and Leclerc is down to third. We're P4, so annoying to see. But Leclerc, oh, he's vulnerable. Leclerc is struggling with those rear tyres on the mediums. We send it on the inside. We make it awkward for him, and we're now on level terms with him nearly as we go through to the next DRS point. I think we'll have the DRS surely because we were behind him. Yes, we do. So we're going to try and get ahead of him before the next left-hander, but Leclerc does not want to give this up. He's going to dive down the inside. We have to correct. Otherwise, there would have been a crash there. We come back on circuit, make a bit of contact with him, make more contact with him, and there's been a massive problem there as Leclerc and myself have crashed each other out. Neither of us wanted to give up the position. As we went through this left-hander, I had to turn out of that left-hander because there would have been a crash earlier than that. I come back on circuit and then I just overestimated where Leclerc was. Maybe just a little bit of annoyance in the cockpit of having to go off on the runoff area previously, so I wanted just to solidify where I was. But look at that dive from Leclerc. He really put me in an awkward position that I had to turn out into the runoff area, and then there you can see from his POVs he gets caught up on top of my car in a quite extraordinary crash. But that's the rear end view of me having to step out of it. But here I thought I was ahead of him completely. So, you know, it's my fault on the crash. On the second bit, I think he's at fault here. I think he put us in a very dangerous spot anyway in the first instance. We make contact there. Schumacher gets a great view, and actually Schumacher breaks his front wing actually on my rear end, so Schumacher's got some problems in this race as Hamilton's POV is really quite extraordinary as he sees the collision happening and it comes towards him and he avoids it, I think, just about. But this is the slow-mo then, so I'm ahead, but Leclerc is determined to dive it. At this point, I'm braking already, but Leclerc brakes later than me, and here, if I had carried on my turning trajectory, I'm convinced we would have had a crash right there and then. We take the runoff area. We do come back on circuit very aggressively, but, you know, understand that I was very annoyed I had to turn out at that point. And then here, I continued to be annoyed. I thought I had him, and I didn't. And we just completely just came together then. No room to work with. And Leclerc quite amazingly dives over my car in quite some spectacular fashion. And it's quite an almighty crash, to be honest, and I'm quite surprised others didn't get caught up in it. Quite a few people survived that. But us two, myself and Leclerc, the top two in the championship, end this race early after crashing with each other. It's all boiled over.
Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on track was: speed. I know it sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races.
Here come today's winning drivers, and what a race this was. This is a team that knows success very well in F1, and they're just itching for even more.
So Felipe Drugovich gets a little bit of revenge from what happened at the last race at Brazil by winning this one at Jeddah, and it's a double Repsol Haas podium, just showing that actually they'd had some really great pace there. Piastri and Hulkenberg on the podium with Drugovich. None of the other three in the championship fight on the podium, which is quite big for me and Leclerc not to lose a devastating amount of points. Lando Norris, the highest position, P4, Schumacher 5th, Hamilton 6th. They're lined up 4, 5, 6, getting 12, 10 and 8 points. It could have been so much worse. It could have been 25, 18, 15, but the top three, all people not in the championship fight. Leclerc and myself ending things early, along with Carlos Sainz at some point in that race with a DNF of his own. But just really frustrating. I mean, me and Leclerc have been coming together all season, so if it was going to happen, you know, let it happen here rather than the last race, because then we can do something about it now. Because going into it, thankfully, we still lead the championship, but only now by 4 points to Lando Norris, and there are 8 points separating the top 5 in this Drivers' Championship fight. 4 to Norris, then 1 point to Leclerc, then another point to Schumacher, and then 2 points. So this final ever race on F1 22 My Team Career Mode at Abu Dhabi next episode is going to go down to a 5-way championship fight, 8 points in it. We lead though, and we do have the biggest cushion out of everyone of 4 points. So that gives me a little bit of solace. We've had good pace this whole second half of the season, so it's about keeping it clean in Abu Dhabi and trying to, you know, just do the best we can with We've had some amazing finales at Abu Dhabi on this game so far, and I'm sure hopefully we'll have one final one in the next episode. And the Constructors Championship-wise, well, Vettel Rennsport did gain some points on us, 16 points in it. So myself and Hamilton also have a Constructors Championship to try and wrap up. Can we make it 4 Constructors Championships on this game? And then can we make it 3 World Championships in terms of the Drivers' title on this game to round things out? We're going to have to find out next episode. But guys, if you have enjoyed this one, action-packed, short and sweet though, then be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.